I want to talk about the American justice system. I've heard it's the best in the world. I can't dispute that. I don't have experience with the justice system of any country outside of the U.S. Whether it's the best in the world or not, I'm going to proceed like it is. And there's a lot of good reasons for it to be called the best in the world. Supposedly, the American justice system is designed to allow the guilty to go free in order to prevent an innocent person from being convicted of a crime. So let's begin by asking the question, does that actually happen? The exonerated five, which our esteemed president did everything that he could to get executed, is proof that no, it doesn't happen. The Innocence Project is also outstanding evidence that our justice system is severely broken. Now, I don't want to lay this at the feet of lawyers. I feel like the primary blame belongs on the electorate. The reason the electorate deserves the blame is many. Where our justice system in modern times began to lose it was when we decided it was a good idea to privatize it. I think the one thing that we could do to really fix our justice system is by socializing it entirely. Private prisons spend so much money on elections that whether a judge is on the take, whether a judge is accepting bribes or not, the private prison companies invest so much into our elections that politicians, and if you're an elected judge, make no mistake about it, you are a politician, feel obligated to those private prison companies. And then socially, American culture has allowed for specifically Latino and non-white people to pack those prisons. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, you're playing the race card. No, actually, I'm not. I'm playing the poverty card. We have a public defender's office. Every state in the country has one. I've had to use a public defender before. Now, prior to having used a public defender, I was under the impression that the public defender is paid for by the state. Factually false, at least in the state of New Mexico. You have to pay your public defender. It may not cost as much as paying a lawyer, but the public defender is not available to you. Not in the sense that you think. And there is a good reason for that. It's because we chronically underfund the public defender's office. And in most Republican-led states, we're trying to eliminate funding for the public defender's office. The reason for that is so that poor people can't afford to fight. You also see this in the insurance industry. I want to bring up Gianmarco's case. He murdered. And make no mistake about it, with the publicly available evidence, Gianmarco is guilty of murder. But he murdered the CEO of United Healthcare. Yet United Healthcare goes out of their way to murder thousands of people every day. United Healthcare makes it a corporate policy to deny necessary life-saving health care to their clients. Now, if you watch someone die, the state can criminally prosecute you for murder, whether you were involved in the actions of killing them or not. Because you sat back and did nothing, the state has the right to prosecute you for murder. That's not true of insurance companies. And I don't understand why. We pay an insurance company to assist us in paying in that life-saving care. And yet insurance companies are not obligated to do that. And in not doing that, if they were a private individual, they would be prosecuted for murder. So the question is, why isn't the insurance company prosecuted for murder? Going back to the example of the public defender, my taxes are supposed to pay for a public defender. So when I need one, I don't have to take money out of pocket to pay for a public defender if I can't afford a private attorney. So why aren't my tax contributions considered when I need a public defender? So realistically speaking, the justice system doesn't apply if you're poor, because you are quite literally paying for justice. The more you can afford to pay, the more justice you can afford. Whether that's what President Trump did, where justice delayed equals justice denied, because in both the President Trump's terms, he's guilty of violating the Emoluments Clause. And whether he was impeached for that or not, he could still be criminally tried for it. Now, let's talk about systemic issues in the justice system relating to immigration. Prior to President Trump, so under President Obama, Tom Homan was in the Department of Homeland Security. He was handling Customs and Border Patrol. He was handling ICE. Currently, the Department of Justice is allowing ICE to go into immigration courts and pick people up from immigration court. The Department of Justice is doing something illegal. They're allowing an administrative warrant to be used as a judicial warrant. They can't do that. ICE is not allowed to do that. So the issue is that the top lawyers at the Department of Justice have made it a policy to allow ICE to break the law. I have a solution for this, and it will work. All the way down to the line prosecutors. So everyone in the Department of Justice above the level of line prosecutor, disbar them in every state. The American Bar Association has the right to do that. And at this point, I would argue they have the obligation to do that. Now, what would that do? That would disallow the Department of Justice from bringing a case before any court. They don't have a qualified attorney general to sign off on the prosecution. There's a lot of stuff that we can do to fix our justice system. A lot of stuff. The very first thing that we need to do is begin funding the public defender's office. The second thing we need to do is start consistently applying the laws. And that goes to the state attorneys generals, as well as the Department of Justice attorneys generals. Now, currently, under President Trump, they're never going to prosecute a Republican white Christian. It won't happen. I want to point out that's a violation of their oath, which gives Congress permission to impeach them. And again, you can't do it by just impeaching Attorney General Bondi. You have to impeach Attorney General Bondi. You have to impeach Deputy Attorney General Blanche. You have to impeach the entire management of the Department of Justice. To make it easier to do that, the Bar Association, the American Bar Association, and all 50 state bar associations, I argue at this point, have the obligation to disbar everybody in the Department of Justice up to the line prosecutors. Now remember, a line prosecutor can't bring a case to the court on their own. There has to be a supervising prosecutor to sign off on it. So once you disbar all of those supervising prosecutors, that hamstrings the Department of Justice. Based on their own rules, they can't bring a case to court after that anymore until they get a new supervising attorney general. And then Congress, by being obstinate, can pretty much decide who that new attorney general is by making it very clear to object to everyone that comes in. Based on my understanding of the court decision surrounding Lindsay Halligan, the federal government is currently going to have a very hard time promoting a new prosecutor to the interim or acting role. And I think that we should take advantage of that. I also think that we need to really, really fund the public defender's office. And we need to diversify the public defender's office. Understanding that the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement has every intention of breaking every law they can get away with. The Public Defender's Office needs to have a cadre, and a large cadre, of immigration attorneys as well as criminal defense attorneys. And then We need to forcibly shut down by legislation in all 50 states and every territory of the United States. You can't have a private prison company. We have to socialize the correctional system. I think those are the things that we need to do in order to get our justice system back on track. Are we still going to have innocent people go to prison for crimes they didn't commit? Absolutely. Are we still going to have guilty people get away with crime? Absolutely. Is there any real way to solve either of those two problems? No, it's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. There's plenty of stuff that we can do to minimize the occurrence. But we also got to be realistic about what the outcome is going to be. And I think it's important. And then the other thing that I want to see happen, particularly at the state level, prosecute the Attorney General. They don't have presidential immunity. Prosecute them. So the state's attorneys general start prosecuting Pam Bondi. Start prosecuting Todd Blanche. Start prosecuting all the other supervisory prosecutors. Prosecute Kristi Noem. Prosecute Tom Homan. Prosecute Greg Bovino. And remember, justice delayed is justice denied, so do it now. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on the subject.